Welcome back to the final round. Apple among the outperformers today. Taking a look at the stock, shares jumping just around 6%. Now we got a call from Wedbush on the tech giant. It's our call of the day today. Analyst Dan Ives making the argument that this is Apple's most important product cycle since the iPhone 6 in 2014. And Dan Roberts, let me go to you first, because you and I have talked about this in the past, whether or not 5G is going to be the thing that gets consumers very excited about it. But Dan Ives is pointing out a very important fact, basically saying that there's so many Apple users that are due for an upgrade at this point that this just might as well prove to be the most important product cycle that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, he actually has some figure he whips out there where he says 40% of people probably haven't upgraded in 3.5 years. If that's accurate, then Apple probably is in for a number of people upgrading, whether or not it's 5G that's luring them to upgrade. I mean, we've talked about, and I really believe that in the last few years, the enticement to upgrade and get the newest iPhone every time has gotten really low. That is, they trot out the new phone on stage. It might have a slightly better camera. It might have a couple new things. But the last few times, the last few events have felt less glitzy and there's less, compulsion. Oh, I need the newest iPhone. Well, this time 5G, I think, is a real sweetener. And even if it isn't because of 5G, there are some people who are just probably due. And it's also hard. I mean, I have to remember I'm an exception. I just have a work phone. So I have the iPhone 11, but I got it from work. So, if we were talking about me as a consumer, would I drop the money for the new one? Hard to say. I will say, I want to make sure we mention here when we talk about whether people will rush to upgrade because of 5G, how quickly they'll upgrade, how important China is here. Dan Ives also mentions that he thinks China is sort of, on its way back and is going to be really crucial. And that will be important because if you remember, and it feels like an eternity ago for Apple, because Apple's really come up since then. But remember in January 2019, I think it was like the second day of the new year, Apple came out and issued a warning about how steeply its iPhone sales in China were falling. And it felt like the sky is falling and Apple stock took a hit. And everyone said, wow, see, iPhone demand really shrinking now. It's a new day. And then you had the bulls pivoting and saying, well, that's okay because services. I'm so bullish on Apple because of the services. Now, if the bullishness about the next iPhone cycle is to be believed, we're going to swing back to, well, iPhone itself is pretty good. And iPhone itself is the reason to be bullish about Apple. So I suspect that he'll be right, that it'll be very successful. And then even if he's wrong and the demand isn't quite as high as he's saying, if the demand is even pretty good, it doesn't even have to be very, very good. I imagine that'll be very good for Apple stock.
And Seana, Dan, just thinking about, diving deeper into the China angle, in this note, Ives specifically says that the WeChat ban or the threat of a WeChat ban will not have a material impact at all on China sales. So that goes to say, whatever the geopolitical drama and tumult that we've been covering on our programming on a daily basis may sort of signal, the consumers are not afraid, right? And you could say the same thing about TikTok users. You could say the same thing about anyone who really is steeped into whatever Chinese apps that they are using. And ultimately their behavior and their purchasing decisions will not be swayed in a real way. So I thought that was a really interesting point that Ives did mention that I think a lot of investors have on their minds, right? What do we do to sort of hedge the future in the case that perhaps some of these apps will no longer be in existence? As of now, in the short and medium term, that doesn't seem to be something that we should be worried about.
Yeah, Melody, I kind of want to go back to the 5G discussion, and that really is kind of what the big to-do about these iPhones is. Yes, there's going to be a new design. That's what leaks have shown. Yes, there's going to be 4 phones. Leaks have shown that as well. Maybe as much as a 5 times telephoto zoom, which I'm personally excited for, to take closer pictures of my cat's stupid face. But the 5G is really going to be one of the major selling points, and it's going to be kind of a tightrope for Apple to walk, because yes, it's a new exciting technology, but where is it, right? Like most people don't have access to 5G yet, or don't understand what it's really going to provide. And I think a lot of the carriers have built it up to be something when we don't really have the apps that take advantage of that kind of technology quite yet, right? We had 4G LTE that came out, and it was miles ahead of 3G as far as loading web pages. That was really a huge boost for us. But from 4G LTE, which is already super fast, to 5G, there's somewhat of a diminishing return as far as our current apps ecosystem goes. Netflix can only get as good as a certain level when it comes to streaming. Ditto Spotify. I can only download things so fast until I think, well, what's the point of an extra, few seconds? What I think really needs to happen is the apps need to be kind of baked to get the interest in 5G really rolling. And right now, that's not quite there. I think people are going to get their iPhones and they might be surprised when either A, they don't have 5G in their area, or B, they do, and they're thinking, well, what's the big deal? I already had 4G and it's doing essentially the same thing.
Well, and Dan, just a quick question for you as our 5G guy. I've also wondered if people will be surprised when the hype doesn't deliver. It's sort of like we're seeing so many ads. In fact, it's getting confusing. There's an ad that's running during live sports incessantly. I can't believe I can't think of the carrier, but the woman is in the store and pushes out the 5G sign, and the guy in the mask standing outside says, "You should be shouting this louder. You have 5G now." And it's like, well, we don't really have 5G yet. I mean, we don't have the 5G iPhone yet, but there's sort of 5G in some areas, and they're saying nationwide 5G. And then finally, I just wonder too if it's at all going to be the effect that we often see. Maybe you'd say not often, but it feels often to me, where you don't want to download the newest iPhone operating system at first, the software update, because it's glitchy. You want to wait until the bugs are ironed out.
It's interesting. It's AT&T, by the way, and they had kind of a weird thing where they were sort of saying that they had 5G at one point, but they actually didn't. It was just advanced LTE, and I think the bugs aren't going to be there necessarily, similar to when you get a first generation device or something like that. It's just going to be, I think, okay, I have this. What's going to take advantage of it yet? And I think maybe in a year or two, we'll start to get those apps and those services. Look, we didn't have Uber, Seamless, Spotify, without LTE. 5G is going to do that. I think in the first round of devices, though, people are going to get it and say, okay, where's, the big to-do? And I don't think personally it's going to be there right out of the gate. That said, I'm definitely going to buy one of these phones.
All right, Dan Howley. Well, you have a busy, 24, 48 hours ahead of you with the Apple event tomorrow and then Prime Day, all the roundup that you need to do it there. So we're going to let you go.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.